Don't upset Bernie Sanders. Right? Note to corporate America. A group of CEOs wrote a letter that was published in today's Wall Street Journal. 80 CEOs saying that we need to, quote, reform Medicaid and Medicare. And you and I both know when a CEO says reform Medicaid and Medicare, they mean slash it. And work on the deficit, which means cut federal government spending. It obviously doesn't mean raise taxes on CEOs. And so Senator Sanders said, you know, there really is no shame. The Wall Street leaders whose recklessness and illegal behavior caused this terrible recession are now lecturing the American people on the need for courage to deal with the nation's finances and deficit crisis. Before telling us why we should cut Social Security, Medicare, and other vitally important programs, these CEOs might want to take a hard look at their responsibility for causing the deficit and this terrible recession. Our Wall Street friends might also want to show some courage of their own by suggesting that the wealthiest people in this country, like them, start paying their fair share of taxes. They might work to end the outrageous corporate loopholes, the tax havens, the outsourcing provisions that their lobbyists have littered through the tax code, contributing greatly to our deficit. Bernie went on to say, many of the CEOs who signed the deficit reduction letter run corporations that evaded at least $34.5 billion in taxes by setting up more than 600 subsidiaries in the Cayman Islands and other offshore tax havens just since 2008. As a result, at least a dozen of the companies avoided paying any federal income taxes in recent years and even received more than $6.5 billion in tax refunds from the IRS since 2008. Several of the companies received a total taxpayer bailout of more than $2.5 trillion from the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department. Many of the companies have also outsourced hundreds of thousands of American jobs to China and other low-wage countries, forcing their workers to receive unemployment insurance and other federal benefits. In other words, these are some of the same people who have significantly caused the deficit to explode over the last 4 years. And then he names names. Number one, Brian Moynihan, CEO of Bank of America, one of the guys who signed the letter in the Wall Street Journal saying, cut Social Security and Medicare and dial back on government spending, right? Brian Moynihan, amount of federal income taxes paid in 2010, zero. $1.8 billion tax refund. This was his business, not him personally. Taxpayer bailout from the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department, $1.3 trillion this guy got from us. And he's saying we should cut retirement benefits? Amount of federal income taxes Bank of America would have owed if their offshore tax havens were eliminated, $2.6 billion. Number two, Goldman Sachs CEO Lloyd Blankfein, another one of these screaming, flaming hypocrites who signed this letter in the Wall Street Journal today. These corporate overlords, the economic royalists, as Franklin Roosevelt called them. Amount of federal income taxes paid in 2008, zero. $278 million tax refund. Taxpayer bailout to $824 billion just for Goldman Sachs. Amount of federal income taxes that Goldman Sachs would have owed if their offshore tax havens were eliminated, $2.7 billion. These guys are the biggest welfare queens in America, and they have the gall to write a letter to America, to lecture America and publish it in the Wall Street Journal saying, oh, we've got to reform Social Security and Medicare because we can't afford it. Because we got this huge deficit in the United States. The deficit, by the way, has been cut to a quarter of what it was the day that Barack Obama became president. But not through any of their efforts. Number three, J.P. Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon. Taxpayer bailout from the Federal Reserve, $416 billion this guy and his company took. Amount of federal income taxes J.P. Morgan Chase would have owed if their offshore tax havens were eliminated, almost $5 billion, $4.9 billion. That's how much they are stealing from you and me by manipulating, by having their lobbyists write into the laws the possibility that they can stash their money overseas and not pay income taxes on it. Number four, from Bernie Sanders, in response to this obscene letter in the Wall Street Journal by these 80 corporate CEOs. Number four, Jeffrey Immelt, the CEO of General Electric. Amount of, again, this is all according to Senator Sanders, amount of federal income taxes paid in 2010, zero. They got a $3.3 billion tax refund. They got a $16 billion bailout. Jobs shipped overseas, at least 25,000 since 2001. Number 5, Verizon CEO Lowell McAdam. Amount of federal income taxes paid in 2010 by Verizon? 0. They got a $705 million tax refund. American jobs cut in 2010. In 2010, Verizon announced 13,000 job cuts, the third largest corporate layoff total that year. Number 6, the CEO of Boeing, James McNerney Jr. He, another one of these screaming, flaming hypocrites who wrote this letter saying, cut benefits to old people in this country. We can't afford to pay for it. Verizon CEO Lowell McAdam, the amount of federal income taxes paid in 2010, 0. They got a $705 million tax refund. Jobs cut, Verizon. Oh, I already did this. I'm sorry. James McNerney, Boeing. $124 million tax refund. Taxes paid in 2010, none. American jobs shipped overseas by Boeing, 57,000. Amount of corporate welfare, at least $58 billion. A guy whose company took $58 billion in corporate welfare from you and me, the taxpayers, is telling us we have to cut back on Social Security and Medicare.